Michelle, and I am starting my series on the fire element in honor of the summer season, which, if you live in New England, certainly feels like we've entered summer. It is a hot day today. And so the fire element is associated with 4 different organs / meridians, unlike the rest of the 5 elements, which are only associated with 2. So those organs are the heart, the small intestine, what's called the heart protector, or sometimes just called the pericardium, and the triple burner, or the sanjiao. And so those last 2 don't necessarily or don't have a physical organ associated with them, more so functions in the mind, body, spirit. And the heart protector, or pericardium, is it's like the muscle layer around the heart, so not its own organ. But we'll get into each one of those in the following weeks. And so today we're just going to generally talk about the fire element, what it's all about, and their associations or correspondences, which each of the elements have a set of correspondences. So we already mentioned the first, that the season associated with fire is summer, and the warmest time of the year, the warmest, brightest, most yang time, and fire is the most yang of the 5 elements, and as opposed to yin. So the 2 kind of main energies that the 5 elements boil down to, yin and yang. Yang being brighter, warmer, faster, as opposed to yin, slower, older, colder, more like juicy, substantive. Yang, more ethereal. So the season of summer, the cardinal direction is south. So thinking of like the southern hemisphere tends to be, or the southern part of the northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere tend to be the warmer parts. And the stage of life or development, we talked about with the water element, the seed. The wood element is that sprout, that first kind of burst of life up and out of the surface. And then the fire element is associated with maturity, the flower stage of a plant, if that is part of the plant's life. And the flavor associated with the fire element is bitter. Bitter is a flavor that tends to drain energy down, good for draining heat. So if you have too much fire, too much heat, the bitter substances can help to clear that heat out. Bitter things tend to have kind of a diuretic effect. Think of coffee and certain tea, so the fire element it's all about warmth, not only temperature-wise, emotional warmth. It's all about connection, communication, relationships, particularly friendships and romantic relationships, love, love of all kinds, romantic love, universal love, self-love, and intimacy, vulnerability, just connecting with others, and that it's kind of the social aspect of life, and that like initial stage, especially when you're first meeting someone, you're usually in the fire energy, that stage of but I guess it's all can be fire. So that initial stage is a certain kind of fire, and then as you deepen into your relationship with someone, it's still an aspect of fire. And having healthy fire means that we can kind of regulate our warmth. So not only our body temperature, our circulation, but also how much warmth do you show to someone, in what way, you know, having appropriate, a sense of like what's appropriate, and when you move or how you move from the initial stage of small talk into more personal, if ever. Being able to read the room, being able to connect with other people. So that's all kind of a part of the fire element. And as the weather gets warmer, we tend to get outside more. We want to connect more. So it kind of it makes sense. And every element kind of has a movement of the energy associated with it. With the water element, we might have talked about, it's this forward, like a freight train, this kind of intense, persevering, forward moving energy. The wood element, it's like the sprout coming up and out of the earth, pushing up and out of the yin of winter, the dark, the cold, this like powerful energy that bursts forward, asserts itself. And then with the fire energy, a little more relaxed. It rises and falls. So fire, there's always a kind of ebb and flow with the fire energy, and for some of us, it's deeper, deeper valleys and higher peaks. So a healthy fire, it's always going to rise and fall, and we'll talk more about what that looks like later. But to have a kind of stable rise and fall where the highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low, that it's causing instability. So we'll get into the emotion associated with the fire element. So it kind of goes along with, you can maybe guess from talking about this rising and falling energy, the balanced emotion of fire is called joy. And so the spectrum, all of these emotions exist on a spectrum for each of the 5 elements, from imbalanced to balanced. And so with the fire element, on one end of the spectrum, we have lack of joy. And then on the other end of the spectrum is kind of like a mania, like a manic joy, if you will. So if we have deficient fire, we may have this kind of a sadness, a flatness, like there's not that spark, or a sparkle in someone's eye, or this kind of a loneliness, a sadness from loneliness or not being able to connect the way that fire wants to. And there's a certain kind of voice or sound of the voice that goes along with this. It's called a lack of laugh. So kind of a flat, just like the life is, the spark has gone out, sort of a voice. Whereas a healthy, someone who is kind of more of a fire type person in health, they'll have like more of a laughing voice that has this like rise and fall to it. May even laugh a lot as they speak, or have kind of a smile as they speak. And you may see or hear both of that from the same person, right? We aren't in a fixed state, right? So someone who is more of a fire type person, and who seems really joyful a lot of times, may also actually have a lot of sadness, and you may not see that as much if you're not as close to someone. They may be presenting more of that happy face, because they want to be liked and they want to connect, and they know that that's the way to do it, is to be joyful and laugh, and have other people laugh with them. So on the one end of the deficient fire, we have lack of joy, sadness, loneliness. And then on the other end of the spectrum, excess fire, mania. So kind of exaggerated example might be someone who has bipolar, and so they do fluctuate from this manic state to a depressed state. So that's a kind of example of fire that maybe the peaks are a little unmanageably high, and the valleys are unmanageably low. And so we're never trying to eradicate or flatline that, but just to make the range stabler in that rise and fall. There's also a spectrum with fire regarding intimacy. So there can be a fear of intimacy with the fire element that can actually present as almost a recklessness with intimacy on one end, or on the other end can present more obviously as a fear of intimacy. So the reckless side, someone may be using physical intimacy as a way to connect and prevent emotional intimacy. Or they may be not necessarily going to that, but simply just having like a really flirtatious energy, but it's actually kind of a barrier to deeper connection. They just have maybe this way with everyone, and it's not really personal, and it prevents you from really connecting with them. And then there may be someone who really is obviously has kind of a wall up, whether with physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, or they may be in a relationship, and even in the relationship, there's this avoidance of some kind. So that's all kind of exists within the realm of the fire element. And the virtues of fire, so propriety is the virtue of the fire element. And what this means, it sounds kind of like prim and stiff. In this context, what it means is knowing the right, or doing the right thing, or saying the right thing at the right time. And that may be saying something inappropriate that breaks the tension that was needed as comic relief, or making a joke, or it may be being able to really be more serious, being able to read the room and tell what it is that will resonate with people or a person. Maybe it's fire can be about one-on-one connection, it can be about group connection, or simply connecting with yourself. So healthy fire knows and can say or do the right thing at the right time, in regards to communication, in particular. And other virtues or qualities associated with healthy fire include, like we were talking about, intimacy, healthy vulnerability, as well as empathy, really being able to kind of put yourself in someone else's perspective and imagine what they may feel or connect with what they're feeling. So on the more yin side of fire, it's the intimacy of connecting with yourself, and on the more yang side, connecting with the world. And so we'll talk more about that as we, in the coming weeks, talk about the different organs/meridians associated with fire. That's just a brief introduction into the fire element.